Welcome into Centre Court thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold pressed in Northern Victoria. This is where we take a deeper look at the athletes, coaches and the voices who define netball in Australia. The conversation unfolds in 4 quarters, giving the guests room to share who they are away from netball, the highs and lows of their career and the future they are building beyond the court. It's honest, it's reflective and it's the side of the game that you don't always get to see. Today's guest is one of the most decorated defenders in Australia, a Commonwealth Bank and ANZ champion, 3-time World Cup winner, a Commonwealth Games gold medalist, Ellis Diamond recipient, and one of the fiercest competitors the game has ever seen. I welcome in Julie Prendergast. Jules, thanks so much for being here.
No worries, thank you.
I'm so excited to talk to you, and I say that about every single guest, but we've just been touching on your career and how it's one of the most spectacular. When you hear everything that I've just said, there's so much to your career, which we'll get to in a moment, but we do start every single episode by asking our guest a very simple question. Thanks to Priceline Pharmacy, we know health and beauty. What season of life are you in right now?
I think right now it'd be my mum life era. I've got 3 kids, beautiful kids. I've got a 9-year-old boy, 8-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy who keep me so busy. Absolutely love it. Although if you ask them, they'd probably say I'm in my concert era because, and I don't have my kids, so I'm enjoying live music and I enjoy going to concerts. So.
What's been your most recent concert?
Ed Sheeran.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Coldplay, we'll go to Robbie Williams later this year, but love like Xavier Rudd, Ziggy Albert's, all that kind of stuff too. So there's a big variety.
Oh my God, I didn't know this about you. We're learning new things already. We know that you're a superstar netballer, but we also know now that you love your music. So what does a day in the life of Julie Prendergast look like now? Day to day, what can we see you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm a school teacher as well. I teach at my kids' school, and also at Peninsula Grammar, live down on the Mornington Peninsula. So basically it's getting the kids off to school and kinder, and then teaching myself, and then after school it doesn't stop there. It's like mum's taxi. You know what it's like. Our parents, when we were growing up as kids, there's often something on every night of the week. So it's busy just taking them to sports and then weekends are pretty much the same.
What sports are they lining up for?
Yeah, so my eldest 2 do basketball and they love that. My little 4-year-old, he'll do it at some stage. He's always got a ball in his hands, like a footy or a basketball. Zara does cheerleading.
Oh, we love that.
She did gymnastics last year. She's done dancing, so I was a dancer mum. But she's my little performer. They all do swimming, which I think is really important, and living down, on the coast, being around the water all the time. And what else do they do? They've done athletics before. I used to do lots of athletics growing up as a kid. Zara hasn't tapped into netball yet. I don't know if she will. She does I do netball clinics on the school holidays. She does those, but hasn't actually joined a team yet. Whether or not she will, doesn't matter. I just want her to enjoy what she's doing and have fun along the way. And Auskick's starting soon for Zara, and little halves, my 4-year-old will do Auskick. So,
oh my gosh, so there's plenty happening. Yes. Cooper, Zara and Harvey.
Yeah.
They must mean the world to you. They obviously, your whole life revolves around them. What are you most proud of being their mum at the moment? What are you seeing in their personalities and what they're bringing out? Yeah,
I love it. Just seeing them active and enjoying sport, because that was such an important part of my life, and that's how I, grew up as a little girl back in the country. And I just love that they enjoy playing sport and making new friends and having, enjoyable experiences from that, and just the time you spend with them in the backyard, and that competitive nature, of having siblings and how they interact with each other. Yeah, they have fights and stuff like that, but they're competitive when we're out shooting hoops or playing cricket. Cooper wants to play cricket this year. He gave footy a crack last year, and it's cricket this year. So you just keep adding sports, and I just love it because it just reminds me of my childhood.
They're just going to be athletes like you. We know that you were one of the best athletes that we've seen grace our courts. But let's talk about siblings, because you had Ian and your older sister Karen, and you've often spoken about how influential they were in your childhood. You've spoken about growing up in the country and being from there, but you did make the move to Melbourne at a young age. Can you give us some insight into what your childhood was like in terms of living in Kerrang, is that right? Yeah, and then how your parents shaped your childhood?
Yeah, absolutely love the country lifestyle. So growing up, obviously Ian, he was 6 years older than me, and Kaz is 4 years older, and I guess I've always looked up to them, and being the youngest I probably annoyed them because I just wanted to be just like them and do everything they did. And Kaz played netball, that's why I got into netball. We all did athletics as young kids growing up, and like my kids in the backyard and in the driveway, being competitive, that's exactly how I was. And, I saw how they would approach, everything they wanted to achieve on the sporting field, or even, education-wise, they'd be so dedicated. And I think I got so much of my values around what I wanted to achieve and how I'd go about it from watching them. And they were huge role models, for me with sport, but also in life as well. And they've certainly gotten me through a lot, both in my sporting career and my personal life as well. So I can never thank them enough. Like, I'll never be able to. And it's just so great having such supportive siblings, and my parents as well, that enabled us to all play sport at a competitive level. And I was in Kerrang until I was 10. And then Ian started playing footy when he was quite late. He was like 16 when he started to kick the footy around. We moved up to Melbourne, and then he went to Oakley Chargers and got drafted to the Blues, which at the time I was filthy because I was an Essendon supporter. So Bombers I was like through and through.
They're both not great.
No, they're not great.
Sorry to say.
No, I know. Maybe I should just pick a new team. Yeah. But it was awesome to see him, go on and play AFL, and just the time and the dedication he put into what he wanted to achieve. And Kaz went on to play netball for Victoria as well. So like I said, I just wanted to follow in their footsteps, and I think they were proud of what I achieved, and they were there right to the very end of my career.
I know you're going to be modest, but who was the best athlete in the household? I have to say it's probably you, because I've seen you on a netball court, but Ian, Karen, or yourself?
No, I think I don't know. I think both of them.
Oh, you really?
Yeah,
just not yourself?
Well, no, I don't know. They just taught me so much about. I'm so thankful of what I've learnt from them. So
Ian, and I don't think many people know this, but Ian was involved with the Players Association for a really long time. He's a lawyer now, and he's gone on to some amazing things, and he has had a fair bit to do with netball. I know that it runs through his veins, and being involved with that, and I know that having Ian involved with the Players Association through some of our most difficult times was awesome, and the fact that he was your brother was a nice touch on that as well. Let's talk about your parents, though. They are some of the most incredible people. I've had the privilege of spending a little bit of time with them, but they really shaped you as well. Is that right?
Yeah, they did. You probably heard Dad in the crowds at games.
Yeah, all the time.
Often it was, saying something to the umpire or something like that. That's
he wasn't
appropriate. But no, they were huge supporters. You know what it's like living in the country and the sacrifice that they have to make, and they moved our whole lives from the country up, to Melbourne, and we moved up to Doncaster, like the eastern suburbs. And I know when we first moved up, it was quite interesting because we wanted to play netball, and Mum reached out to just a local club at Doncaster just to see if my sister and I could get a game, but there wasn't a game for us there.
Wow.
So it was just a local Saturday netball team that we just wanted to be a part of just to play. And my sister and I were like, wow, you've got to be really good to play like in the city. And so we had to ended up playing out at Waverley District Netball Association because Mum had a friend there. So we'd travel from like Doncaster over to Ashwood, like 20 minutes, half an hour. And everything just seemed like you had to travel so far in the city, moving from the country, living so close. So, Mum's taxi, Dad's taxi, just going. We do little athletics in the morning and then netball in the afternoon. But the sacrifices that they made, and I now know what it's like as a parent when you're just travelling around after school, taking the kids to all their commitments. Like my brother and sister, I'm forever grateful for what they've done for me to achieve my goals. And they were there right to the very end at all the major tournaments that I played in at a late age.
Yeah, and they were always in the crowd, I think, along with my parents as well. They would travel together, they would spend a lot of time. Let's finish up quarter one. Where are you most happiest at the moment? Is it at the concerts with your kids? What makes you tick the most right now?
Yeah, with my kids, we have a concert at home. I love like music and stuff like that. They do too. So I always got music on, and just seeing their happy faces, that's where I'm my happiest and in my best place.
I love that. Jules, let's move our attention to quarter two now, where we dive headfirst into your netball journey. Thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold pressed in Northern Victoria. Let's start. I would start at the start, but it is so extensive. I have a whole page of your netball career and over the page. So let's start with you debuting at 16 years of age. Almost unheard of now. I don't think we've seen that for a really long time. Commonwealth Bank Trophy days. What do you remember about being thrown into elite netball at 16? You would have still been at high school.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it's a bit of a blur, to be honest, but I do know that back then, the Melbourne Phoenix days, like Liz Boniello was a huge role model for me as well. Being at high school, both my parents were working too, so getting from school, I was at Carey Grammar at the time with Renee Ingalls and Joey Curran, and we'd have to, be at school, walk down to Liz Boniello's house. She'd drive us to training. She lived just down the road from school, which was handy, and learning so much from her and the older girls in the team, or the more experienced girls, sorry, I shouldn't say older girls. But yeah, I just learnt so much from her, and yeah, you get thrown in there, but I feel like I'd trained for quite a long time with older players, and even my sister as well, having her around. So it kind of felt almost normal and just comfortable for me playing with those girls. And yeah, you look back and it was quite young to start playing at that level. But yeah, forever grateful for the opportunities that I got at such a young age.
Crazy to think that at 16 you're going to high school, you're doing schoolwork, and then maybe you're playing on TV on the weekends. And I think there's a lot of people that would be tuning into this, young players that are potentially playing footy netball with more experienced players. What would you say would be the thing that you tapped into most? And then you also becoming a more experienced player with the younger players. How important is that relationship and that mentor that you probably had in Liz?
Yeah, I think it's just learning from them. And Joyce Brown was the coach of the Phoenix at the time, and she was an amazing coach. She was really like firm but fair, and she had so much respect from her players. And the way, like I remember going to training sometimes after, being at school, you might have had an exam or something like that, and she'd just go around and she'd get to know how everyone was feeling and how much she can push them at training, and like she just really connected with the players. And now, like doing a bit of coaching myself, that's what I encourage the coaches that I coach with, to connect with your players, because I think if you build that respect with your players as a coach, they'll respect you and they'll want to play their hearts out for you. And that's what Joyce did. And she didn't take anything at training. She expected once you stepped out on court, you meant business and you switched on and you were focused. And I loved that, absolutely loved it.
You certainly meant business when you got on the court. Your defensive style very early on saw you named Australia's best new talent. Is it a style that you sort of developed and realised that that's just how you were going to play? Because it became quite definitive. Julie Prendergast, that's how she plays. She's ferocious, she attacks first balls, but it was you from the get-go. Was it just how you saw the game?
Well, in my junior days, I was like a goal attack.
Oh,
goal shooter.
weren't we all?
Yes, I know, we're all princess shooters. I remember trying out for a Vic team, and there was so many goal attacks, and it was right near the end of the trials. No one wanted to play like goal defence or goalkeeper, so they threw me in there, and I went in to goal defence or goalkeeper in like the second last trial, and then they did another one, got selected in the Vic team, and they said, we've actually chosen you as a defender.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, cool. All right, I was just wrapped to be a part of the team. But I think just that mindset of, being an attacking defender as well, and like going after ball and going hunting for ball, probably is because I, was an attacking player to start with. But I say that to juniors that I coach now, just be open to all different positions. You never know where you'll end up, and just make the most of every opportunity you get when you're out on court.
I think that's the best piece of advice, and anyone who's watching that's going to trials, if they say that wing defence is available, jump on the court, put the bib on. I reckon I played goal shooter a couple of times in trials, and I just think that is how a lot of people start. A lot of young players who end up in elite sport, they go from goal attack to centre to goal defence, and you've been one of the best we've ever seen just purely because they picked you as a defender in a state team. Let's talk about crossing from the Phoenix to the Kestrels in 2007. It was a pretty big moment, and back in that stage, and now we've got the Mavs and the Vixens, it was very much two separate teams. Yes. That's a big move for you to make.
Yeah, it was, and it was really hard and really difficult. And I did struggle with that because obviously from a young age I was with the Phoenix and had so many great memories with the Phoenix, and I didn't want to leave. But in 2006 was the Melbourne Commonwealth Games, and I was a training partner with the Aussie team. And Norma Plummer said to me, if you're going to get into the team, you need to be playing, like domestically for the Phoenix. But I was at a stage where I wasn't really playing that much. And there was an opportunity, a defensive position at the Kestrels. And she kind of encouraged me to do that. and I knew it was probably the move I had to do, but I didn't want to, and it was hard, and I did it, and you cop it. And even back then, like, there wasn't much social media. Like, I'd hate to think what it'd be like now, although it's very much more open now and people move around all the time. And yeah, it was just a little bit frowned upon back then. And even I remember receiving a call from Joyce Brown, and she was disappointed in me, and I felt really bad for that. But I mean, from a netball point of view, went to the Kestrels, got the opportunity to play, and I just wanted to play because starting from a young age, when you get a sniff of what it's like to be out on court, that's what you want to do. Went across to the Kestrels in 2007, and then I was really fortunate. I got named in the Australian team. I debuted for the Australian team that year, and then later that year was in a World Cup team with the Australian team. So I guess you'd probably look back and say it was the right thing to do, but it was really hard, and I copped it from a lot of people doing that.
Oh, wow. And it's nice now that you can look back in hindsight and say, oh, great move. But, you know, at the time you don't know whether it's going to be a positive risk or something that doesn't work out your way. Turns out a great one for you. Vixens then starts. Now it's Kestrels and the Phoenix. You play 1 year at the Kestrels and then they amalgamate into the Vixens.
I know, that was awkward.
Very awkward. So the Vixens become part of netball fabric, and you're part of the inaugural Vixens team. So they bring both of them together. What was that experience like as well? Because you've been a part of both teams then in the Melbourne netball scene, and now you're one team trying to come together. Was that a different experience as well?
It was interesting. It was really challenging. I think so. Kestrels and Phoenix both had 16 players like on their list. We had 12 in the team and then 4 training partners.
Yes.
Then we went down to the ANZ champs, Melbourne Vixens. I think they only named 10.
Yeah.
And so you're going from 32 players to 10, all like in Victoria, where netball's massive in Victoria. So it was really, really hard and disappointing because we couldn't keep all those Victorian players, and that was the start of everyone travelling all over Australia to get a game and get an opportunity to play. And I suppose after the move to Kestrels the year before, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll get the call up or not. This is kind of awkward because it was the Phoenix coach coaching the Vixens. Anyway, got the call up, and I signed on with Vixens, and we got labelled the dream team because on paper it looked like we should have played really well together, but we all know that just because you've got lots of playing history and success doesn't matter. You might not gel as a team, and we didn't. We didn't perform in 2008. And then I remember 2009, we went on this really interesting pre-season camp that no one really kind of talks about now. Some of the stuff that we did and some of the things that they did to us, I didn't really agree with.
Right.
And I saw a thing on SAS last night on TV, and I was like, oh, yep, that brings back a few memories, what they kind of did to us. And I don't know, you probably look back at that and you go, oh, well, that's why we went on and we won in 2009. They probably think it was that camp, but I don't think it was. I think, I don't know, we just obviously we'd done a lot of learning from 2008 and come together and a lot closer in 2009, and we won the premiership, so it was awesome. But you have those traumatic camps that you have to deal with, and you're like, you just choose to forget those and move on.
Adelaide Crows, I think, have a similar one. You're going. It's very similar to that. Probably not as talked about though, just because it was netball and back in those days. But amazing to walk away with a premiership in 2009. Turbulent year by the sounds of things in terms of starting the pre-season that way, but how is it when you finish a season that is really difficult and you've had some of those traumatic experiences to then raise the cup at the end? Can you remember that moment too? Yeah, it was awesome. We had a great year. I think we were 12-1 that year, so we, it was a great season after being, labelled the dream team the year before. And to go through and win and, just celebrate the hard work that we had. Like, winning a premiership together is an amazing feeling. And then I was lucky enough to have some success with the Aussie team after that as well. So it kind of continued, and that's the year that I won the Ellis Diamond. So it was just like an amazing feeling. I just wanted to bubble that all up. But then, sure enough, things came crashing down like the year after because my injuries in my knees and everything started to kind of get the better of me. It's insane, and we will touch on injuries when we talk about some of the deeper stuff in quarter 3, but I have to mention this now. Your career and how it ended always left, I think, so many fans, and I was a massive fan of yours, wanting more from you in terms of like we just thought that you finished at the pinnacle of your career. There was so much left, but obviously for you, just inside your body and how things were panning out, there just wasn't anything left for you to give. It is one of the most fascinating ends to a career that I think I've ever seen. But let's talk about the diamonds before we get to that. So 3 World Cup golds in 2007, 2011 and 2015. A 2014 Com Games gold. It's a career in the diamonds that I think it spanned a long time, but it was just so successful across that period of time. You obviously had great contests with New Zealand in that time, some of the most stressful that we've watched on screen. But talk us through your experiences, Sisters in Arms, diamonds culture, everything that it was, and who it probably made you as a netballer as well.
Yeah. So I suppose if you unpack each of those World Cup experiences, in 2007 I was the youngest member of the team, so I was 20. I was just happy to be there. I was like, you know, being the cheerleader on the side of the court. Never expected to get out on court in that World Cup and play, but Selena Gilsonen was the starting wing defence and went down in the first game of that tournament, and wing defence wasn't something I was really that familiar with, but at a tournament like that, you're willing to do whatever to get out on court. And I remember Norma Plummer looked down at me and she's like, "Kiddo, you're going on." And I was like, "Okay," like thrown out there, way to learn a different position at a World Cup, but that's okay. You just make the most of it. And she told me a few things to do. I was like, "Yep, cool. Just keep it simple, do the basic things well, and just play your role for the team." And ended up playing in every game leading up to the grand final. It was Liz Ellis's last tournament. She'd announced her retirement, and all those older girls, I just had so much respect for them. I wanted the best for Liz, and got to the grand final, and Selena was back. They got her back for that. She started it. I think she played 3 quarters, and then she just couldn't quite last, so I played the last. Absolutely petrified. But yeah, we managed, we got the win. I think it was only 4 goals, so it wasn't like we had a huge lead, but just being out on court and Liz and like Coxie and Sherelle and all those girls, it was just amazing. I was just, so excited to be a part of that. But that was just like my first experience in, a World Cup. I'd just played my first game of netball for the Aussies earlier that year too. I was like, oh, that was awesome. I want more of this. Yeah. Like, it just made me want more. And then 2011, it was interesting in between there. There's the Com Games before the World Cup. So in 2010, there was a Com Games in Delhi. And as a little girl back in my athletic days, I wanted to go to the Olympics. And we all know netball's not the Olympics, hopefully. It is soon.
Yeah. Sign the petition.
Yeah. But I thought, Commonwealth Games, how cool would that be? Because I'd seen a little bit of the 2006 Com Games in Melbourne. Yep. I was like, oh, I'd love to play in a Commonwealth Games. So I remember going up to the after having the season we had with Vixens in 2009 and the highs of winning the premiership and the Liz Ellis Diamond and being on such a high, then to go through the 2010 season, I got asked to go to the trials for Delhi, and I went there with all these injuries in my knees, and I ran from one end to the other, got back, and I reckon I nearly collapsed. My knee was just the size of a balloon. Wow. So just the cartilage in my knees was just wearing out. I had bone on bone, which is not ideal for netball. No. Dump and dodge and all of that. Anyway, I remember I went and spoke to one of the sports psychs we had working with the Aussie team at the time, and he knew how much that was hurting me, because I couldn't even trial. That was it for me. I did 2 laps and I was done. And he said, "You've got plan A, this is your dream, and this is what you want everything to look like. But if that can't happen, we've got to learn to switch over here to what's next, what's plan B and what's next." And I think that mindset and having that, not just at that time in my netball career, but in life in general, helps you. You can't just focus on, all the negative stuff happens, and you can acknowledge that and acknowledge those feelings of what's happened, but you've just got to move on and make the most of what you can control. And unfortunately, Delhi was gone for me. And I suppose looking back, hearing experiences from the girls, they didn't unfortunately have the best experience at Delhi. So I suppose if you look at it on a positive spin, it was one that you could have missed. But I still had that dream as a little girl to go to a Commonwealth Games. But then that was 2010. After that, not being able to run up and down, I went and saw my surgeon, Hayden Morris, and he said, right, the surgery we have to do to you is a tibial tuberosity transfer. It's basically a realignment of your knee. So it's not like an ACL.
No.
It's different.
Yep.
And I also found that difficult because no other person had done it that had returned. He goes, I've never done this to someone that's returned to high-level netball. I was like, awesome. Thanks for that.
Full of confidence.
Great, yeah. And he said, so I don't know if you ever will be able to.
Wow.
So that was 2010. He's like, so yeah, hopefully you're kind of happy with what you've achieved. I was like, no. There's still more I want to achieve, which is probably why, obviously, it makes sense now to you, probably why I finished up in 2015. That was it. Like, I felt like from then there was like a ticking time bomb on my knees and everything. So, yeah, that was a challenging year, 2010. Had the surgery, got back into, obviously kept playing, played with Vixens in 2011. I remember after a really long rehab, I went out, played for the Vixens. It was at the State Netball Hockey Centre. Went out for the first time, caught the ball, and everyone cheered. I was like, I can still catch.
I can do it.
Like, yeah.
Wow.
But it was really nice. It was nice to have that support and that from all the Vixen fans. And then, I got myself back into the Aussie squad. Wasn't sure. There was a lot of unknowns because that year I didn't play much because of the injuries, and then went on to play in the World Cup. Not only that, played lots of games, and then that grand final was a draw. So we played overtime.
Yeah,
so, yep, and overtime is 2 7-minute halves.
Oh,
so
I know.
Crazy.
It's not a couple of minutes here and there. It's a whole nother quarter.
Yeah, yep. And we're still a draw. So still a draw at the end of extra time. So, you have to play until someone's 2 goals up. And that was electric though. Like, it was something I will never forget how loud that was. You could not hear the umpires, like the crowd, the Silver Ferns crowd, the Aussie Diamonds fans. It was just electric. And to win that was just unreal. But then my knee kind of reminded me, of, hey, yeah. But you had the gold medal, so it was all worth it. It was such a great experience. And then obviously, there's the Commonwealth Games in there in 2014. So, I got my body right for that. There was a conversation I had to have there, though, with Lisa Alexander, the Aussie Diamonds coach. It was a really honest and open conversation. I'll be forever grateful for her with that. And it was basically like, my body's not coping with netball, and unfortunately I can't do as much as I'd like to. She knew my goals from an international point of view. I wanted to get to Com Games in 14, whether or not I could hold on to 15 for the World Cup. And it was about managing my workload and managing what tours I went on and what I didn't. And that was a sacrifice that you kind of had to make too, because if you're out of the team, you're not necessarily a sure thing to get back in.
No.
So I was like, yep, cool. So in 2012 and 2013, I didn't really play much in the test matches. And then I got myself into the team for Com Games in 2014, but I was on the bench and that was okay. I was all right with that. It was fine. I was just happy to be there.
Yep.
But then the opportunity in the tournaments came up and I got a starting spot. Was in the starting team and played the whole grand final against the Ferns, and that was a really unusual experience because we won that one by 18 goals. It was crazy. I remember I was playing with Gaitzi. I remember looking around at her in the last quarter. I was like, we both were just smiling. Like this is cool. You can actually enjoy it. It wasn't like goal for goal like all the other games you play against the Ferns. So that was an incredible experience too. And then I remember just going, one more year, 2015 World Cup in Sydney. How cool would that be to finish your career on home soil? But my body was ready to tap out. So it was a challenging year to get through 2015 and keep all the swelling off my knees and everything. But yeah, managed to get through and won the World Cup, so it was all worth it. Broke a few bones along the way, but that's okay.
Which we'll get to. But I think hearing your experience and breaking down every single medal that you won and every single game that you played in Com Games, I think it's so interesting because we see the end result. We see you out on court, but to get to that point with everything that you went through adds so much more context to it and probably makes it all the more special for you as well. Jules, let's finish your netball section with the Diamonds. And I was a massive fan of that era of Diamonds players, and you've touched on a few people, yourself and Gaitzi, and Maddie was in that as well. And I just think that group of players was incredibly special. And I know that Lisa Alexander had a big part in just the culture and how that setup was, but I'm sure a lot of those people are still very special to you.
when Lisa came on board, she had this holistic approach to having like a really good balance with your training and family and friends, and having downtime in the program. And when we'd go away on camps, sometimes there'd be a day off, which was just like, it's something I wasn't really used to. But I think it really created that culture that you work hard at the times, but you have that balance. And that's when we developed the Sisters in Arms, which is something I just absolutely loved. That you'd go out on court. Before an Aussie Diamonds game, you'd always sing the national anthem too, which always just kind of gave me shivers. And you'd link arms with your teammates, and you'd go out on court. You'd do absolutely anything for them, anything. And that, to this day, it's like we've got this Australian Diamonds culture. Once you're in, you're in. They're your sisters for life. And the friendships you build from that, and and the connections you have along the way, and it's just something really, really special to be a part of.
I think the other thing as well is that you're netballers, but you're also people. And what comes with being a human is a lot of experiences in life. And I know that these players that you've spent amazing times with on court also would have seen you through some of the hardest moments in your life as well. So it's a really special environment to be a part of, and I know that your era was a beautiful group of people. So excited to hear you talk about that, and awesome to reflect on an amazing career. Do you have any words about your career? We're going to get into the injuries and the hard stuff in a bit, but do you have any real positive comments on your career? Last words almost?
I think I'm just grateful for the opportunities that came my way. I guess being a girl from the country in a small little country town, you just have dreams of achieving these things. But just, like I said, grateful for the opportunities that came my way, and just had so much fun along the way doing it.
We love what you're talking about, Jules, but we also love doing a little quick fire. So before we get a little bit deeper, let's add some sugar thanks to Struddies. Gear up this season with Struddies. Shop Struddies because they're your buddies. Struddies.com.au. So we'll do a little quick fire. I've got a few questions here. Let's kick it off. Favourite netball dress you've ever worn?
Can't go past the green and gold every time you put that on, but also being Victorian, pulling on the navy blue, and Vixen's being in navy blue is always
No Kestrel's Phoenix, is it?
No.
I'm joking. But is it the Diamonds dress with the built-in undies, or is it the Diamonds dress, the A-line?
Oh, so 07, the first World Cup I went to, was the built-in undies.
Yep.
So old school.
Love it.
Look at that now in the Lycra. But now, the A-line with the bike shorts underneath.
Yeah.
That's mine.
I liked the built-in undies. It was hard to go to the bathroom, but they were my favourite.
Yeah, okay.
One player, past or present, that you'd love to play with?
I loved playing with Gutsy. It was like we had the sixth sense. Like we just knew what each other was doing.
Oh, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, and I loved playing with her. Just, I don't know, we could just feed off each other, read off each other, and just knew what each other was doing. It's like playing with my sister.
Is there any current players that you look at now and you oh, that would be fun?
So Jamie Lee Price, actually, when I went over to New Zealand for a couple of years to live, her parents reached out to me and asked me to do some coaching with her. And I did, and I was like, whoa, rang Lisa Alexander. I was like, we've got to get this girl into our system, because she was going down the Silver Fern system living over in New Zealand. And sure enough, look at her career. It's been so good to watch her thrive, and it would have been awesome to play with her. But Renee Ingles, having her out the front, Kimmy Rav, those girls that shut down the mid-court, helps you come out and get some intercepts and stuff. So, having those middies that and your sister as well, Maddie, they're just, so tenacious in their defence. And then it allowed you to come out and get some intercepts.
I love that you give all of your credit to other people, which is great, teammate, but also that. Can you give us a little bit more? I'm going to go off track here, but Jamie Lee Price, so how many sessions did you do with her?
Probably only a couple, but what I saw in her, that's why I rang Lisa. I was like, you got to get her in the system.
Some insight. We're dropping bombs here on Centre Court. Most underrated teammate you've ever had?
Probably, Nat Medhurst, Butler. She was amazing and really hard to play on, so I liked it when she was on my team. But probably like Renee Ingles as well, she just shut down the wing attack, and like, you know, it'd make your life so much easier as a defender playing behind her and Gutsy, because they're just shutting the girls down, you know, in front of you. So that's why team sport's a beautiful thing. You know, I say that to, you know, the people I coach now, like, just because you're not getting an intercept, don't feel like you're not doing the job for your team, because you are.
That's it. It's the unsung heroes in wing defence. Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Something I like to live by is just work hard for what you want. You know, if you want something to happen, you make it happen. Lots of Michael Jordan's quotes I love. And now my son loves all them too. So
do you have it hanging in the house?
Yeah, there's a few quotes hanging.
Really? What one?
Well, if you so they've got one on my desk that's like, if you want something to happen, like make it happen, like along those lines. And then he's got Michael Jordan posters blown up in his room and stuff like that.
Not a bad role model.
Yeah.
If you could relive one game, what game would it be and why?
Oh.
We have a few different approaches to this. So it's maybe a game that you would like to relive because you lost, maybe a game you'd like to relive because it was the best experience ever.
Probably, well, in my last year of netball, you reminded me before of my last game with the Swifts when we lost the grand final. Probably that one. If we could do that one again and have a different result, that would be good. That one hurt a lot. But then my last ever game with the Diamonds was pretty cool too. Don't know if I'd want to relive it with a broken foot, maybe just with a body that can actually run a bit.
Yeah, that's a great segue into our next section, because in quarter three, we often dive into the deeper parts of someone's career. Now, you've touched a lot on your injuries and your body, but this is the section that is more about what wasn't the sunshine and rainbows, because there are parts of professional sport that are incredibly difficult. I think your biggest one would have been your injuries and just how your body didn't cooperate for what you were able to do. My first question is, do you put your injuries down to how fiercely you played the game? Was it a structural thing, or was it genuinely just how hard you went? Because I don't know if there's many people that went as hard as you.
Good question, and sorry I touched on my injuries a bit.
No, great.
My apologies. But I think some of them, it's my own fault. Like, I've had lots of broken noses, so just going in for the ball and not holding back. Probably that, you know, being the youngest sibling and just fighting your brother and sister in the backyard. Broken fingers, it's all kind of normal, it's all part of it. Structurally, and my parents will probably hate me, but when we went to see my knee surgeon, he said genetically, like, you're just not built, and structurally your knees are not built the best for netball. And that's why he said to me back in 2010, maybe pick another sport. And I was like, no. You know, because I had that dream as a little girl of going to a Commonwealth Games, and I just had a little sniff of what it was like to play with the Diamonds, and just had one World Cup experience at that stage. So I was like, no, I want more.
Yeah.
What can we do to, like, you know?
You talk about that from grand final with the Swifts, and I remember this clear as day. Broken nose, Romelda Aiken, she wasn't George at that point in time, elbow down after a rebound, blood, broken nose.
Yep.
Horrific injury, but not the first time you'd done it either.
No.
Plenty of broken noses. 2, 3?
4.
Oh, 4.
Yeah. But that's okay. It's all part of it. And I remember, I've seen a photo of myself with my head down and like bruising already and blood, but it's all part of the game. Like, and I know it was just her elbow, and she's so lanky, and you know, it's all part of it. I remember after that game though, obviously you feel sorry for yourself a bit with that, but we lost. So it just hurt so much more. And I remember I was like, oh, someone stood on my foot. I was like, sore foot, sore nose. We lost, it's the worst. And then it was kind of bittersweet, because then the next day got the phone call from Lisa Alexander, hey, you're in the World Cup team. So that's what I mean by...
So quickly.
Yeah, like you've got to switch your mindset from being all negative and, you know, sad and all that to just, all right, what's the focus now, and have to shift, you know, your focus and, you know, looking to do what you can in preparation for that.
So you talk about shifting the focus, and there's heartbreak that comes with injuries and not being able to do what you want, because I think one of the hardest things about either getting older or retiring or injuries is that your brain can still see the game exactly how you want it to see it, and that doesn't go away, but your body just can't get you there. What were the biggest lessons you learnt through so many heartbreaking injuries, and how you flipped that into how you viewed what was next?
Yeah. So 2015 was one of my hardest years, turning up to training, and I had to get my knees tested, the swelling on them, to take part in training. And I did probably looking back, some pretty silly things of draining fluid to almost trick my physio that there was no fluid there, because
You did it yourself?
Well, I was draining fluid driving a car, which is probably not the best thing to do. And I hated letting my team down. And because if I turned up training, couldn't train, I was like, I hated being on the sidelines. And even going into the World Cup, I had my foot in a moon boot because I had a stress reaction. And I just hated not being out on court with the girls. And I felt like I was letting them down. And even though I was in the pool and I was on the bike and I was doing boxing and doing all these things to try and keep yourself fit, it was really difficult not being part of the team. And that's what I struggled with the most. And I know that the girls, and they've said to me, they know how hard I worked and they know how much I wanted to be out there. But you just feel like you're letting them down when you're not part of the team. Sorry, I've gone way off your question here.
No, I love, you can talk about whatever you like. Those periods on the sidelines, though, and we often talk about this when, anyone is going through a rehab. Rehab is the hardest place on earth. It is isolating, it is lonely. There are people who don't understand what you're going through. I think on top of that, people forget that you're often in pain. So you're dealing with the pain that is mentally exhausting, but it's also very isolating. How did you get yourself through the isolation and the difficulties that come with being almost alone in a rehab process?
Yeah, it is. It's really challenging. And like you said, it's lonely, and you're often doing all these other things before your main training session. You've spent, I remember in 2015, luckily we were, from netball point of view, getting paid a bit more, because my whole day was spent just getting my body right to hopefully train, and all the things you did to get there. And then you get to training, and some of the young girls would just be doing uni or something for the day, or being out shopping, and you're like, oh, it'd be good to do that. And it makes you kind of realise how old your body is. But yeah, it is really isolating, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. But I guess I had the end goal in mind and what I wanted to achieve. And I knew that I didn't want to go through and not do everything I possibly could to achieve my goals. So that's what kept me going and got me through those times. And my brother's had plenty of injuries, and Kaz has had a few too. So there's lots of people you can talk to help get you through those times, but just trying to focus on the positives and, envisioning what's going to happen at the end.
You seem pretty positive. Was there ever any moments that the frustration got the better of you?
Oh, there was, certainly. After trialling for Delhi in 2010, and then having to go have surgery, and you have those moments, absolutely, where you just, you're crying, you're bawling your eyes out. It's not fair, why me, all those things. But, like I said before, you've got to pivot. You've got to, what can I focus on? Because being in a negative mind space and thinking about all negative things and poor me, it doesn't help you.
No.
So that's why I try to stay positive, and I watched that Delhi grand final with my knee in a brace, but I was like, no, I was determined to get myself back out on court, because even Asta Hayden said to me, you don't know if you'll get back to playing. I was like, no, I'm determined to make it happen.
You don't know who I am. I'm Julie Prendergast. I will be back in the green and gold. You talk about pivoting though, now transitioning from being a professional athlete, a professional netballer, into what I say is the real world, but you've lived your dream, but now you are entering into retirement. Now, I said it off the top, most fascinating retirement I've ever seen. You win a gold medal at the 2015 World Cup and then say, I'm done. That's crazy, but obviously it was that end goal that now I've got some insight, that's what you were working towards. Yeah. But did you feel like the fan base, I was a part of it, were just in shock that was the end for you, but you knew that why? Yeah,
I guess to a certain extent. I think my body was like a ticking time bomb of when it was going to all end. And I had that goal in sight to go to 2015 World Cup if I could get in that team. And after that year with the Swifts, which was one of the hardest years to get my body on court and to train with the girls, I knew that was it. And I didn't want anything about me. I didn't want to announce my retirement or anything, but Swifts really wanted to know for their building for 2016, which I totally respect. They wanted to know what spots they had to fill in that team, and they kind of wanted to know an indication of whether you're going to play next year. So I wanted to do the right thing by them and let them know, but then unfortunately then just gets out and the media got onto it, and I didn't like that because I just wanted to do my thing and, you know, got into the World Cup team. I didn't want it to be about me, and I hated that part of it. And even at the very end when we won the gold medal, everyone's like, oh, Jules. And I'm like, yeah, but there's other girls here that are probably retiring too. And I hated that part. I just wanted it to be all about the team and not me retiring. But at the same time, it was nice because I, you know, all friends and family being in Sydney up there in the crowd watching and supporting us. And it was such an amazing experience to win that gold medal on home soil and go out with a bang. Like, it was just awesome. And then the party afterwards was unreal.
And off air, you did say, you know, maybe the fan base and the people who loved you wanted you to play on, but what a way to finish. And you've got a great last memory of being on court. You haven't stepped back on court since that grand final. It's not like you've played a footy netball or taken up an opportunity. So the last time you played netball, you won a World Cup. Yeah. That is so special. I think that's just such an awesome story. How did you find the transition, though? You've obviously given up all of your days to get up for training and be on court, and now all of a sudden netball's not in your space. How did you find the transition out of it?
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously such a high after winning the World Cup and just being on cloud nine, and then unfortunately finding out that I did have a broken foot after that game. So having to tackle that and figure out the best way forward to deal with that injury, and knowing that I was never going to go back on court again. At the time, went over to the UK after that, following my partner at the time in his career. But that was challenging in itself because I was like on cloud nine, just won the World Cup and then moved over to the UK. I was like, oh, okay. It was a bit of a slap in the face, like a reality check. I was like, all right. Anyway, I was lucky enough, we, fell pregnant and then I became a mum, and that was amazing. And that's what I absolutely love, is that next stage of my life is being a mum, and now, seeing my kids get involved in sport and, following them around and just being their cheerleader. So it's that next stage of life, and I've done my, career, and I've made all the sacrifices to reach my goals that I wanted to. So now it's just all about the kids.
Jules, before we wrap up the hard parts of your life, there is one that I want to touch on just purely because it was quite public. You went from playing under Julie Prendergast, you obviously got married, you were Julie Corletto, and there's a lot of people that might be listening to this knowing you as Julie Corletto. You can take this wherever you would like to take this, but obviously a very challenging personal circumstance that you went through.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, I think a lot of people go through, separations in marriages and partnerships, and that's what I went through, which was not a nice experience. I don't think it is for anyone. But the hardest part for me was, I suppose, just dealing with a lot of the treatment of how I was treated through that, and still am navigating through. It's, I don't know how to describe it, to be honest, but it's just a horrible experience I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I think some people can, they can separate, they can go about it in an amicable way and do the best things for the children, and that's all I want. But when there's certain things that happen to you, it's horrible. And I just want the best thing for my kids. I want them to be happy and thriving and to be good people and show empathy and understanding and treat people with respect. But when I'm not respected, I don't tolerate that. And if you do the wrong thing by me, I'm sport teaches you a lot of that. I'm quite, I guess you'd say you're strong to get through something like that. And like we've touched on, so much of what I've gone through in sport has helped me get through this really difficult time in my personal life. And there's some amazing people out there that will support you. And I think early on I was just internalising it all, thinking everything was my fault. and yeah, it's a really difficult time to go through, but the best thing is there's so much support out there for you and your friends and your family, and there's beautiful people that have gone through similar experiences, and there's some really kind and nice, genuine people out there that just want the best for you and want you to be happy considering what you've gone through.
Do you think the challenge too was what you were experiencing in your personal life and potentially the disrespect there, but the adoration you were getting in your netball career, and maybe the difference in like people adore you in the netball world, and that's probably what you were living with your career, but then to go home and not have that, that's a juxtaposition that's really difficult to deal with as well.
Yeah, and I think myself going through that, I removed myself from netball, and I shouldn't have done that. I shied away from, you know, the support that got me through netball. I felt embarrassed and ashamed of what had happened, and it was difficult, but I'm so glad that there was a 2015 reunion last year, and I wasn't sure whether I should go or not, but I did, and it was the best thing I did. And you know, getting back, I was sitting next to Geitzy and Rav watching the Diamonds play, and we just chatted the whole time. I don't think I watched any netball, but it was so good just to be back with those girls, and they just wrap their arms around you and they know what you've been through, and they always will be there for you. And that's what sport, you know, gives to you, those friendships for life and people that will help you get through some of the toughest moments. And I actually took my daughter to the Vixens Grand Final last year too. And I know going forward, I've just got to do it. But it's hard not to, I guess, be a little bit, I don't know, ashamed of what's happened when you wanted, you know, when you just picture that perfect life and happy family, and you think that's what you have, but it's not. No. And when you get disrespected and treated like I did, it's a horrible experience. But I'm now helping other people get through that too, and I love helping people. And unfortunately, some friends of mine have gone through similar experiences. And I think we can help each other. We can get around and support each other, and that's what I've done too. I've reached out to people who have gone through similar, you know, situations, and everyone has a different story to tell. Everyone's been through different experiences, but like all my injuries through sport, I had so many people that helped me get through those that I'll be forever grateful for. It's the same with something like this.
Thank you for talking to us about it, because I think it is incredibly brave and very difficult to sit here and talk about a situation that's happened to you, especially when often where it brings up a lot of emotions. But I also, part of what I sit here on Centre Court and do, and through our Kim Rebellion interview as well, was also just shining a light on that we're athletes, but there's also the very human side to this, and some of the experiences that people go through are not dissimilar to what our listeners will be as well. So I think sometimes touching on that, whether it's mental health, personal situations, infertility, I just think sometimes shining a light on that is hard to do, but thank you. Jules, it's been amazing to reflect on a career that I don't know whether we'll see it again. And I did say this to you, I'm not sure how many people we now see as 3-time World Cup champions, Commonwealth Games gold medalists. There's a number of players currently that are putting together a really great career, but that is just one to be so proud of. And it's been nice to sit here and talk about not just the highs and reflect on the amazing career that you had, but also the fact that there's been a number of lows in there as well. We're moving on to our final quarter, and this one is all about the legacy piece. Now, you've spoken about being a mum and moving forward into the next chapter. But at the end of the podcast now, thanks to HCF, we always talk about looking back, a reflection, but also where you're heading. For you, in your career, what is your HCF moment that mattered?
Mine would just be having my kids then.
Yeah.
The birth of my 3 beautiful kids. That's an amazing feeling, and that's what I just love.
That's what matters most. When you reflect on your journey, the highs, the injuries, the comebacks, what part of the story are you most proud of?
I think just the fight to keep going. And sometimes you can get, knocked down by things, and sometimes things are out of your control, but just that determination, having the strength to keep going and to achieve your goals and not let anything affect you along the way.
If people talk about Julie Prendergast's contribution to netball, what do you hope that they say?
Maybe that when I was out on court, I had a crack and gave it everything out on court.
Aussie.
And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just left everything out on court. That was my approach to anything I did. I just wanted to prepare as best I could and make the absolute most of every opportunity out on the court.
Last one, looking back, when you look at what netball has given you, and we've spoken about friendships and experiences, resilience, everything that it gave to your life, what's the thing that stands out for you the most? What did it give you?
Yeah, I think sport in general can teach you so much and help you through life. And sometimes, you know, in my situation on court, things broke, like bones broke, but you've just got to play on and get through those difficult times. And you can't change the way people treat you, but it's all about your mindset and what you can control out of that. And I've unfortunately been treated pretty poorly in my personal life, but I've chosen strength and the amazing people around me, my family, my brother, my sister, my mum and dad, and beautiful friends to help me get through some of the most challenging parts from a personal point of view. And I don't think I'd be able to do that if I didn't have sport as a background and just the fundamental skills and the resilience that I've learnt through sport to get me through.
You're an incredible person, and I think sitting down with you and hearing your experience with netball is something that I've taken a lot from, but I would love to know where you are heading now. You've obviously spoken about being in mum era, but you're also coaching, you're running netball clinics, you're doing everything that you can to still be involved in the sport. Where's Julie Prendergast heading? Where are you hoping to finish up?
Yeah, it's a little unknown, but that's okay. So I'm teaching at the moment, which I love. And yeah, I'm coaching down at Mornington Peninsula Netball Association. I'm the head coach there. We've got 12 rep programs. And I think just giving back to, grassroots level and helping the coaches be, better coaches and building that relationships with the players and my clinics as well. I've run them since 2009 and ran one just a couple of days ago, and they just love them. And when you tell them you used to play for the Vixens and you used to play for the Diamonds, they're like, wow, but then I shouldn't mention the year that you won a premiership with the Vixens, because then the next thing is they put up their hand, I wasn't even born then, and you're like, oh, probably need to miss that part out. But I think just giving back and helping coaches, helping players, that's why I really enjoy teaching. And I don't know, I love helping people get better and seeing my kids thrive and just being their supporters, and just I'm loving this era that I'm in at the moment, just being their number one fan.
If people and listeners out there are tuning in and they want to jump into any of your clinics, is there a place that they can find it?
Yeah, so it's NetStars Netball. So if they just go to that, all the details are online. Thanks for that.
No worries. We've got to give you a plug. Jules, it's been awesome to sit down and talk to you. And this is a wrap on Centre Court. It's been another amazing episode and probably one from a career that's... How long have you been out of the game now?
Oh, yeah, so 2015.
Yeah, well, yep. 11 years.
Yes,
11 years ago, but it still extends all across to now. And I think your career is one of the most interesting that we've seen. And it's been a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me on Centre Court.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Centre Court thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold pressed in Northern Victoria.